So obviously I love the Nintendo Switch. It's a great system. It's something that I've put way more time into it than I initially thought I would. When it first was revealed, I was like, this isn't for me. And then, well, it quickly became for me, but we got to keep it real. There are some problems with the system, and there's one problem that's been continuously growing, and now it's just come to a head, and I'm like, I gotta talk about this a bit more. I've alluded to it in other videos, and yeah, Wood made a video recently that's pretty similar to this, but who cares? You don't want just one opinion on things, right? What do you want? One source of information, one source of opinions? What are you, 1984? George Orwell? That's kind of weird. You need to get your priorities in check. I don't like that. I don't like that. But yes, we're going to talk about a problem with the Nintendo Switch today beyond just the basic things we talk about. The fact that, you know, it's a bit of a weaker system. They definitely need to sort of refresh it. The fact that a lot of the online features are definitely lacking with it. But this really comes down to something that Nintendo themselves can control. And it's something that they haven't done a good job of. And when I look at these games in particular, I have to ask myself one question. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Those high notes were very hard to hit. But, you know, what's going on with this? Why do we keep seeing this? And why is there so much inconsistency when it comes to first-party Nintendo games with online features? Because it hasn't been great on the Switch. And obviously there are some titles that have released that, for lack of a better term, have been half-assed. But in order to fully understand this, you kind of have to go back a bit into the past, and what I feel is the root of the problem was the success of a game that didn't even come out on the Nintendo Switch. It actually came out on the Wii U, and that was the original Splatoon. Now, when you look at the original Splatoon, it of course was a huge success because the Nintendo Wii U, there wasn't many good games for it. There really wasn't many games for it at all at the time. So a game like Splatoon came along and was like, hey, you know, this is a new experience. It's a new IP. It's a new first-party title. And it was very successful. It sold extremely well for the user base of the Wii U, both in the United States, Europe, Japan, pretty much every region. It was very successful. But every review that you read about that game initially, and I actually reviewed that game way back in the day on Nintendo Enthusiast, which they took down that website, and that kind of pisses me off because, like, I had so many awesome things on there. That was such a big part of my life, but whatever. That's a topic for another day. But there was a general consensus with that game, and it's like, all right, where's the meat? Where's the meat and potatoes in this game? You have a core game that's a really good game, but there wasn't a lot of modes. There definitely wasn't a lot of maps. There wasn't a lot of weapons, and it definitely felt like an a la carte experience, but it was something that Nintendo was going to continually work on. And the success of that game, I feel, is bringing us to the problem with the Nintendo Switch and some of these half-assed games. And it's not even necessarily the fact that these games are half-assed. I think the bigger problem is the inconsistency of these games when it comes to basic online features, because all of these games that we're going to talk about are basically built on online and multiplayer experiences, yet each individual game has something that the other one doesn't, or has something that the other one doesn't offer in terms of just basic functionality that maybe the other game offers, and there's no consistency. So obviously one of the big games we're going to talk about is Mario Tennis Aces. Now, this game came out, and once again, much like Splatoon, it was like, all right, it's a good core game, but it's a bit half-assed on content. Nintendo then added in a bunch of free stuff to make you excited, new game modes, new different characters that you could do, new levels that you could play on, and it was a good thing, but it was kind of like, oh, well, why wasn't this available, you know, pretty much on day one? The online side of things was fine with it, you know, it worked, it was functional, but there was definitely a problem when it came to the content of the game. You also had Super Mario Party, which just wasn't a great game because of the fact that there was really no sort of online stuff with that game. It's very, very minimal. And then down the road, they added in a bunch of online features with just like a surprise update for this game. And it's kind of like, well, okay, what was the point of that? Did you always plan on adding in additional online features to make it a more robust experience? Or did you just plan on it being half-assed, but the success of the game sort of forced your hand and made you make this game a bit more in-depth when it came to the online stuff? And I know that Mario Party games are based on the local multiplayer experience. You know, that's kind of what a lot of us grew up playing, but the fact of the matter is, you know, as you get older, your friends don't live down the street anymore. They don't live on the same block as you. It's not like you're going to meet up at school. It's a lot harder to play games as an adult with your friends than it is as a kid, because there's no sort of community aspect with it. So you have state lines and city lines and sometimes even country lines where you have to be able to play these games online in order to play them with your friends. It just seemed like a very big oversight. And I think the really telling sign about Super Mario Party is they did the new Mario Party game and everything was online. Everything was online. You could play a full game, a full board online. It had a bunch of online features, and all of that was available on day one. So it's like, okay, well, maybe they're doing better now. You know, obviously they're focusing a bit more on the online stuff. Maybe this is a good thing. And then you get a game like Mario Golf Super Rush, which, you know, it's not really super based on online. Obviously there is a strong multiplayer component, but you just have the half-assedness once again. You know, it's like, okay, well, you did okay with the online stuff, but we're back to the half-assed game. You know, it's a half-baked game. Characters were cut from day one, and you could say that they weren't cut from day one, but the fact that Toadette is in the story mode and is one of the first characters you meet in the story mode, which really isn't a story mode, it's a tutorial, and then a few weeks later she was made available to play in the game, it's kind of like, you held this back. You held this back. And you're not going to admit that you held this back, but you clearly held it back. But the fact that, you know, you held things like this back and you held back some courses and stuff like that, and now the game has completely fallen off a cliff, like they're not adding in stuff to it anymore, you still have that half-baked, that half-assed experience on day one. And then, of course, we have Mario Strikers Battle League, which I did a full video on it, just disgusting the lack of content in the game, because the game at its core is really fun, but unlike previous games, it wasn't just a matter of a lack of content or a lack of online features with this game. It was really both. You know, this game did not have a lot of content. It still does not have a lot of content. The game's online features are laughable. You can only play with up to 4 people total, and it's a versus thing. You can't do 4 people on one team. It's a 4-on-4 soccer game. It's a 4-on-4 soccer game. And I think the problem is, my beef with this, my realization that this is a half-assed game, is the fact that, well, let's look at Nintendo Switch Sports, which came out a little bit before that, at $50, that has much more content in the game, that has better online play in the game, that has game modes where you could play with like a million freaking people. You could play with more people in soccer. You could play with people on the bowling thing. And it's like, that's my problem with this. That's my problem with this. It's kind of understood that I guess Nintendo is going to do these half-assed sports games with Mario on it. And that's not a good thing. You know, obviously people need to speak up about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's the inconsistency that drives me crazy. With the Nintendo Switch Sports, you felt like you got a complete game, especially at the $50 price point. But a game like that's $60, like these Mario sports games and these Mario Party games that have been questionable, to say the least, on the Switch, I think this is a big problem with the Nintendo. And to sort of bring everything back full circle, let's look at Splatoon 1. You know, Splatoon 2 did a better job, but once again, they added in a ton of content into that game past the fact. You know, they added in a bunch of new modes, they added in some new, you know, even the whole DLC expansion pack that they did for that. What does that mean for Splatoon 3? You know, are we going to see something more in line with Splatoon 2, where it's like there is a lot of stuff and then they add more stuff, or is it going to be a la carte like Splatoon 1? You would say to yourself, well, RGT, they're obviously not going to move backwards, they're going to move forwards with this, but are they? Do you have that reassurance? Do you have that feeling that that is going to be the case for sure when you look at these Mario sports titles that we've gotten from Nintendo on the Nintendo Switch, that, let's be realistic, they're a bit of a step back, especially when you talk about things like technology. People say, oh, well, the GameCube game didn't have this, that, and the other. The GameCube game came out 20 years ago. The GameCube Mario Strikers game came out 20 years ago, okay? Advance with the times. Do a little bit better. But like I said, my main thing is the consistency. If every game was the same, if every game had the same sort of online features and the same sort of online infrastructure to where you knew what to expect, at least you would know what to expect. At least there wouldn't be any big surprise. But with these games, it's like, there's a surprise every time. Oh, well, this looks like a game that's going to be based on online. Will it have great online functionality with a bunch of modes? Who knows? Who knows? So Nintendo, get your shit together. All right? Get your shit together. Start making competent titles that are available on day one, because this video was initially going to be a video where I was just talking about games that I regret buying on day one. And looking at the list, I was like, Mario Golf, Mario Strikers. I actually deleted Mario Strikers off my Switch. Mario Tennis, you know, Super Mario Party. Like, these were the games that I came up with, and I was like, well, all these games have a very consistent thing across the board. And let me just say something here. This video is all over the place because, I don't know, it's the day after my birthday. Hit the subscribe button for me for my birthday. But the people, I saw some people say, oh, you're just not good at Mario Strikers, and that's why you don't like it. Are you mad? Have you played the freaking game where the AI just stands there when someone's doing a hyper shot and they're just like, da, 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 da. The goalie, the most inconsistent goalie in the world, who will be like either Jesus Christ or Jesus pinned on a cross where he can't move? Oh my God. Anyways, let's get to that He-Man clip again. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. I said, hey. What's going on? You know what's funny about that? I don't know anything about He-Man. I know there's He-Man and Skeletor. I've never watched He-Man. I love that song, and I love that video. It's the peak of YouTube, in my opinion. But let me know what you think of this in the comment section down below. Are you a fan of this inconsistent stuff? Because I'm not. And, you know, give me your counterpoints and stuff. Be respectful in the comments, you know. Just talk to people. It's okay. Share the video around. Hit the notification bell. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.